Great. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see more people pouring in. Please do just write in the chat, say hello, say where you're from. Fantastic. We're so looking forward to this session. Great to have you all joining. Keep on pouring in. Hello, Barry in Kilkenny, Patricia teaching on the circular economy, Ricky in Kentucky, Cecilia in Germany, Lai in Finland, Jakob in Denmark, Shamsa from Northern California, Jan from Norway, Rob from Germany, Minal. Great to have you all joining us. Keep on coming in, people. We have got 1 hour together. It's going to go fast. We've got a lot we want to share. And we're really delighted to have you joining us from all over the world. So I'm Kate Raworth. I'm the author of Doughnut Economics, and really, really delighted to be in the collaboration with Rethinking Economics International. Let me quickly introduce the co-host of this session, Ross Cathcart.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name's Ross. I am part of the Rethinking Economics International team, and I've been working with Kate and Deal for quite a few months now, and we are giddy, ready to launch these resources and the campaign attached.
Fantastic. So we've got some fantastic speakers lined up for you today who we're really, really delighted who are joining us, some who are teaching Doughnut Economics, some who are students campaigning to be taught Doughnut Economics, and of course, we've got all of you joining. So much experience, so much possibility that we together can become the beginnings of a community of peer inspiration to each other. So I'm going to kick this off by just talking a little bit about these materials and what it is we are launching today. When I wrote Doughnut Economics, and it came out in 2017, some academics very quickly started sending messages on Twitter saying things like, I'm using Doughnut Economics as the core textbook of the module I'm teaching. And I thought, wow, I never imagined that. I didn't write it imagining that it would ever be adopted as a teaching module. And they were finding these animations. I'd worked with brilliant animators making 90-second animations for each of the 7 ways to think that are set out in the book. And I thought, and they were saying, these are great, really brilliant to bring them into the class. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be amazing if there were more materials that were available? How are people teaching it? How are they integrating it? What are we doing? And then 2 years ago, just after Herman Daly, one of the founding fathers of ecological economics, passed away, I was teaching a 90-minute lecture on Doughnut Economics to students in Oxford University. And at the end of it, some of the students came rushing up to me and they just said, why isn't this the economics that's taught to every student studying economics? And there was something about the fact that Herman Daly had just died and these students were demanding it. And I thought, why don't we just do this? So together with the students there, the Rethinking Economics students in Oxford, we put on a guerrilla course in Doughnut Economics. It was an 8-week course. It was open to any student who'd come to this city to study economics of any kind. And it was just teaching Doughnut Economics week by week. And so it was an amazing opportunity that pushed me and pulled me to actually develop slides for each of the 7 ways to think that are set out in the book. And I did it always knowing that this isn't just for the students who happen to be at university in Oxford. This is the beginnings of something that we want to share online with students and academics worldwide. And over the last year, we've turned that very basic deck into something that we want to share today. So I'm going to jump in and share my screen and show you what we've got for you. Let me see, how do I do this? So I'm just going to share my whole screen here. This is the webpage that we've created, Doughnut Economics for university courses. It's teaching materials for educators and students. And actually that photograph that you can see there on the screen was taken at that guerrilla course in Doughnut Economics that we taught in Oxford University, together with the Rethinking Economics students of Oxford. So what's on this page, launching together Doughnut Economics and Rethinking Economics, is a drop-down menu you can see here of the 7 ways to think like a 21st century economist. And these 7 ways that you're seeing, these are the 7 chapters set out in the book. And for each of them, we've gone in. I'm going to just take one of them, the one that's chapter 2, see the big picture. So if we go in here, we click on that and it drops down. We get a very short paragraph which summarizes what this chapter's about. We get a little clip of the diagrams, a little summary of the topics that are addressed in this section. So if you're looking for something, somebody here's teaching, I don't know, if you're thinking about moving beyond the circular flow diagram to the embedded economy diagram, aha, it's here. We can find that. Then it takes you to options to download the slide deck. And those are available either in PowerPoint or in Google Slides. Now, I'm not going to download the slide deck right now. I'm going to show you one I downloaded earlier. This is the Google Slides. And what you can see is it takes us in and gives us a short contents overview of what's here. But the idea of this slide deck is it's not a lecture. It's way too much to just cover in one lecture. And it's not written as if it would be taught from beginning to end. What you can see is a little cluster of modular slides. So each subsection, the power of visual models, there's 5 slides there that you can use to introduce that, or revisiting the classic circular flow diagram in economics, revisiting that diagram and then showing what's missing from it. Some of the conceptual foundations of neoliberalism, how we can reframe ecological economics, some core concepts. So we've got about 8 slides there of the core concepts of ecological economics. Some of these slides introduce the concepts, and some of them, like this one down here, slide 44, point you towards amazing resources that have been made by other people working in this space. So these slide decks are both direct teaching materials, but also think of them as a portal, an entry point to resources that have been created by ecological economists, feminist economists, complexity theory, so many different schools of thought. We wanted to point you to existing brilliant work that is available for free on the internet for everybody. So you've got the slide deck. This one is how many slides long? It's about 70 slides long. There's Jayati Ghosh doing a brilliant series of videos introducing feminist economics. So we're pointing you in lots of directions. Let me come back to the web page it's sitting in. So that's the slide deck you can download in PowerPoint or Google Slides. And then underneath that are lots of reading resources and activities and videos and blogs. Some of them are journal articles, but some of them are much shorter pieces. So you can go in for a deep dive. And it's, again, divided into small subsections. So on the origins of that old circular flow diagram, a few resources on the neoliberal narrative, lots of resources on exploring the foundations of ecological economics. And each one, it gives a link to the piece of work. Almost all of these are free and available now online. And then gives a very short description of what that is. So we're hoping to make this really useful to anybody who's looking for teaching materials, give you a quick introduction to what it is that we're sharing here. And it goes on household and feminist economics, on the market, on the commons. Of course, we could add and add to these lists. We've tried to point people towards some of the foundational concepts that shaped Doughnut Economics. Now, let me come back up to the top here. There's a little section which is a welcome and a background explaining what this is about. But crucially, there's this section here. Please share your feedback and connect with peer educators. We would hugely value your feedback on these slides. They are not complete. There may be errors in them. We would absolutely love it if you would give us feedback through this very simple feedback form we've created, just telling us, you know, actually that needs correcting, or there's a key concept missing here, or giving us suggestions or how we could improve on this. This is just the first iteration we wanted to put out into the world. What else could we do? How else could it be improved? And you can see here that we're inviting academics who want to incorporate these, but also want to connect with other academics. How are you actually teaching these? How are you integrating them into your own slide decks? You can join an academic community of practice here. Or if you're a student who wants to see ideas like these brought into your university education, you can join the student campaign here, which Ross will be telling us more about in a moment. So that gives you a quick overview of this webpage that we are thrilled to be launching right here today. 7 ways to think like a 21st century economist. I'm really conscious that it's currently all in English, but the slides are adaptable. So you could go in and translate them directly if you want. But how could we build on this? I mean, how can we make them available in multiple languages? What would be a smart way of doing that? How could we bring in other ideas that people are sharing? I invite you to put in the chat box any questions, any suggestions, any ideas for what could happen next with these resources that we are going to keep on curating and improving. There have been so many fantastic books, papers, videos that have been published since Doughnut Economics came out. It's been a joy to collate them and start bringing them into these slide decks and resource reading lists. But of course, there's going to be many more. So how could you advise us to curate and keep building on and improving these resources? So I'm going to stop sharing there, and I'll put the link to that webpage in the chat box later in the session. But now I want to turn to practice. It's been a real honor to work with academics, lecturers, professors who have got in touch and said, actually, I'm already teaching this, or I want to teach this, or I'm really looking forward to integrating these kinds of ideas into my teaching. We've designed them to be as easy as possible to integrate, to make as low as possible that barrier to teaching a new concept or teaching a new subject. But I'm really delighted to introduce today two people who are already doing that. And just to hear briefly from them why they find these ideas important and how they're bringing it, or how they look forward to bringing these kinds of concepts into their teaching. So I'm going to kick off by introducing Jacob Rask. He is an amazing change maker in Denmark and also a lecturer at Roskilde University. So Jacob, over to you. Please tell us about how you've been engaging with the concepts of Doughnut Economics and bringing them into your teaching.
Thank you very much, Kate. Can everyone hear and see me well? Yes. All right. How I've been engaging, I could spend a whole hour on it, because 10 years ago I went to England because I was an environmental scientist who kept being told by economists that it wasn't cost efficient to save the living planet, or indeed humanity. So I thought I have to understand the mother tongue of public policy, as you called economics. So I went to England, and there I met Doughnut Economics. The book wasn't out yet, but I saw these very, very early slides, not anything as beautiful as what we are presented with today. And then I went back home to Denmark and started teaching first at folk high schools, which was because there the curriculum is open and free, so I could teach Doughnut Economics in that context. And then it became more well known, it became, Doughnut Economics became exactly that synthesis of all the schools of economics that I had been studying and been fascinated with, like ecological, feminist, institutional economics, but which when I came back to Denmark, which would take hours to explain people what is it that I've learned. So the Doughnut became an easy way to say it's that thing, and Doughnut Economics became this kind of synthesis of these ideas. And I think that's why we're all here today, and that's why it's spreading in that way. And I started using the materials already. In my course, I teach an introduction to economics for around 200 undergraduates every year. So it's not just economics students, it's all the social science students at Roskilde University who encounter this. So it's a historical introduction, introducing how we ended up with the ideas that we have inherited now. And also the last 3 sessions is about where we might go next. There are some of the slides in these materials which, when I saw them, I've been working with this for 10 years, but when I saw them, I felt that's absolutely brilliant way of showing it. So even if you're really if you see yourself as a Doughnut Economics connoisseur, there's still, I think, new things to discover in it. I think you've done a really good job at synthesizing. And what I especially, so at the last thing, want to point to is the way in almost where the kind of basic 7 diagrams become a kind of grammar that you can then use to expand the ideas or integrate others, like the way you explain how Herman Daly's 3 principles fit into the embedded economy diagram. That's a very specific moment where I thought that's really, really smart. Yeah, so I started using them already in university, but also in talks I give in my work as a work with urban development and cities and yeah, I use them there as well. So I think that's it for me for now, and I want to hand over to Minal.
Thanks so much, Jakob. That's fantastic. And I have to say, you've been a fantastic inspiration to do this, knowing that someone like you is there teaching already and putting these ideas into practice with such creativity. And of course, your ideas have fed in, and that I hope will happen with many lecturers and teachers feeding in the ideas and inventing new workshops, inventing new activities. You think that's brilliant, let's incorporate it. So with that, I'm really delighted to introduce Minal Srivastava. She is Professor of Political Economy and Global Studies and Associate Dean of Faculty of Graduate Studies at Athabasca University in Alberta, Canada. Minal, please, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the launch of this treasure trove of resources. My name is Minal Srivastava, and I'm joining you from the unceded Coast Salish territories, the ancestral home of the Wasanich peoples, who have lived and worked on this land since time immemorial, and whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. On this traditional land of the Wasanich peoples, I live and work as an uninvited immigrant settler. Land acknowledgements in Canada are a reminder of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action to redress historical and contemporary injustices. For me, it's also an invitation for critical self-reflection as an embodied, healing, lifelong journey full of mistakes, compassion, and discomfort. And this morning, it feels especially pertinent to mention that it is a journey that can create possibilities for a more just and inclusive society, which has been a goal that has informed my research approaches, teaching methods, and my creative works. So broadly, my research and writings examine political processes affecting the conceptualization and manifestations of globalization, which I see as a process along a historical continuum of global movements of humans, ideas, institutions, commodities, technologies, and much more. At Athabasca University, aside from being an associate dean in the Faculty of Graduate Studies, I coordinate an undergraduate program in political economy. And in the past 18 years at Athabasca, I have developed, coordinated, and taught nearly a dozen courses in political economy and global studies at the graduate and at the undergraduate levels. So when I'm designing my courses, I look for resources that critically reassess development theory and practice in the era of economic globalization and the global climate crisis. And a few years ago, during my search for non-reductive transdisciplinary approaches, I came across Professor Kate Raworth's 2012 Oxfam discussion paper, A Safe and Just Space for Humanity, which combined the interdependent concepts of planetary boundaries and social foundations. Within a very short time, as we've seen, the Doughnut has emerged not just as a multidisciplinary conceptual framework, but also as a guide to policymaking at the local and institutional levels. Above all, I have been drawn to the Doughnut for its ability to integrate many critical approaches while providing tools of design and measurement based on recent advances in internationally agreed upon social standards and in Earth system science. My courses have thus used the Doughnut framework to share with my students some of the tools to broaden the narrow economistic conceptions of domestic and international development policy, highlighting the linkage of economic development issues with the market, the state, the household, as well as the commons. Students can also use the Doughnut to map local development issues to evolve an understanding of the embedded economy and its relevance for development policies. I'm thus really thrilled to see this brilliant collection of resources in one place in the Doughnut Economics for University courses website, and to be invited to share my thoughts on this panel. In my opinion, these resources are not just relevant for instructors looking to bring the concept of doughnut economics into their teaching, but also to introduce their students to the many heterodox approaches addressed in doughnut economics, such as feminist, ecological complexity, institutional economics, and more that Kate already mentioned. And I saw that in the chat, somebody was asking about whether or not a background in economics is required, and I would say not at all. Going through the slide decks, I found them engaging, accessible, and comprehensive. Most importantly, I can see the application of these resources across a range of disciplines. For instance, I recently contributed to the design of a course, The World We Live In, Systems Change for a Finite Planet. It's a free microcredit course piloted by the Faculty of Graduate Studies at Athabasca University. And this course is one in a growing list of short, stackable courses focused on developing competencies with practical application for grad students across disciplines to help develop skills to succeed in academic and non-academic worlds. The World We Live In introduces doughnut economics and multi-level perspective as frameworks that draw our attention to the deeper social and ecological values and structures at play in our quest to transition from an extractive to a regenerative system. The teaching materials on the Doughnut website can easily be adapted in part or as a whole, as Kate showed just now, to a range of courses that aim to incorporate systemic, transdisciplinary, and transformational approaches. From my perspective, the most valuable aspect of these resources is in showing us the intersection of intellectual and transformative work. There's in addition to evolving conceptual tools, they also introduce us to change makers and engaged global citizens who are working on enabling processes involved in just transition and systems change. So as we learn and unlearn and relearn in the process of working toward a just and sustainable world, I think the Doughnut framework has much to offer to expand our perspectives, whether we are students and scholars in the arts, humanities, social sciences, or the health and physical sciences. Because despite the prophets of doom, I will continue to believe that another world is possible and that we need to gather and nurture tools and alliances that will help us get there eventually. Thank you so much.
Wow, Meenal, thank you for such profound words that I think many people really need to hear today, on a day that's very politically challenging for a lot of us because of the US elections. And for me, it's really great to be with teachers and students and thinking about what are the ideas that we can deeply ground ourselves in to move forward. So thank you, such wise and generous words. So it's a privilege to be collaborating with, supported by academics working in universities who are already teaching this, who are already committed to this worldview. And I can imagine for many students, it's highly envious to think, why aren't these people my professors? Why aren't my professors taking this on board? And this is why it's been so important for us at Doughnut Economics Action Lab to work together with Rethinking Economics International, the brilliant student-led movement demanding a change in the economic curriculum. In fact, Doughnut Economics, the book, begins with one of the co-founders of Rethinking Economics International being frustrated in her education. So there's a very strong tie between Doughnut Economics and Rethinking Economics. So let me hand to Ross Cathcart, who is an associate director at Rethinking Economics International, to talk about the campaign that they are launching today and why it is so needed. Ross, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kate. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about Rethinking Economics and where we've come from. And thank you for that introduction, Kate. And yeah, to build on, I think what Jakob was saying in the chat there, I guess we start from the point of view that economics is just too important to be left to the economists. And that actually the economics that was taught and learned in most economics classrooms will give you a very good grounding in mathematical kind of modeling and regression. It'll provide you the really strong understanding of how rational agents function in a market. But what it doesn't do is allow you to engage with what we think economics should do at its core, understand the complex, diverse world around us, the economy. And that is no more so pertinent when we look at questions of the provision of basic needs and services to global community, or the extent to which our current economic activity and model is breaking so many of the planetary boundaries that our embedded kind of social and economy rely on to function and flourish. That being some of the motivating factors that draw people to rethinking economics, it's no surprise the role, inspiring role that Kate has played to the movement, to the network. So along with these resources, we are launching a campaign pack, which I will be sharing in the chat afterwards, which is for students where maybe there isn't as much of a supportive, accommodating atmosphere as we've heard from Mina and Jakob today. And actually, we need to make the case and make the argument for why we need to shift and change our economics curriculum so that it truly does fit the needs and challenges of the 21st century. Now, I've got self-view on here, so I can see my receding hairline and can say that I am getting further and further away from being the student youth voice that I was when I started in this organization. So I think it's really good at this point to hand over to two of the amazing organizers and campaigners that are part of our network and that have been using Doughnut Economics to really amazing effect. I'm going to start off by introducing Anusha Chandra, who is a leader of the Post-Crash Economic Society at the University of Manchester, which is also an economics student there. And yeah, I'll leave it to Anusha to kind of introduce herself more and the work that Post-Crash Economic Society does.
So, hi everybody, I'm Anusha Chandra from the University of Manchester. I'm a student of economics at the university, and I'm also a part of the Post-Crash Economic Society. We as a society were formed in 2013, 11 years ago, by some students that were quite frustrated with the state of economic education. We felt that our education was to create
I don't know if we've maybe lost Anusha. Maybe what we'll do is if the invisible hand of the tech could maybe we can introduce Valentina while Anusha's Wi-Fi reconnects. So I'm really delighted to introduce Valentina Garzon, who is the undergraduate research coordinator at GEAAD, which is one of our local groups based in Colombia, where she is also an economics student at the National University of Colombia. And we are so delighted to have you here today, Valentina.
Thank you, Ross, and thank you all. First of all, I want to say that I'm so glad to be here today and to be sharing with you some of my thoughts, but also to listening to you and all your great ideas. I'm Valentina. I'm an economics student, as Ross said, at the National University of Colombia, and I'm also part of the undergraduate research group that is called Economics, Environment, and Alternatives to Development. En Spanish is Economía, Ambiente y Alternativas al Desarrollo. We created this group after we took an elective course that is called the same as the group. And I want to be very clear at this point that this was an elective course because it was the first time that we hear about Doughnut Economics. And we hear about this framework and another topics that we don't have the opportunity to hear again, like ecological economics and another way to think about economics at all. And what we realized after this course was that there was like a big difference between the elective courses and the mandatory or required courses. In those mandatory courses, we still talk about growth, about technical progress, about tools that can be useful, but seems to be disconnected with the reality that we see every day. And we start to feel that we need a group to give another discussions that deserves to be given. So that's why we created this group. Well, I have to say that Doughnut Economics is, for me and for all of my partners, an amazing tool, and we can use it as an educational tool for understand some other ways to live in and to do things and to do economics. But also I would like to highlight that there are some not only initiatives but also local actions already happening that can be understood by the light of the Doughnut Economics. Even if they don't label like Doughnut Economics, they have these social foundations and this ecological ceiling, and the way that they organize and live in is a sustainable way. So I think it is important to academy to turn our attention to these things that are already happening. Here in the Global South, there are so many examples of communities and forms of organization that are already doing this in a very long time. So we have to turn our attention and establish, like, start to work together. And with that, I come to my third point and my final point, and it's like, as a group, we are committed to receive this tool that DL and Rethinking Economics are launched today, and to use it in every space that we had the opportunity, but also, as Mina say, to challenge it, to transform it, to enrich these ideas with our own perspectives and with our own struggles, and yeah, to create more. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Valentina. And I think we now have Anusha back. I can see you, Anusha. And if you are able to join the screen, be brought up to the screen, Anusha, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, hi again, everybody. Sorry about that. As I was saying, I am the leader of the Post-Crash Economic Society here at Manchester, and our aim is to bring more pluralism and more diversity to our curriculum so that we are better prepared for the future and to deal with the problems of today rather than just using the ideas of yesterday and expecting a different result. And in the past year, our society's goal has been to use the resources provided by Kate and Ross today to campaign for Doughnut Economics to be included in our education. And as a student, I was first introduced to the goal of Doughnut Economics and the concept as a 16-year-old high school student. And I've always been fascinated with it because it is a unique new way of thinking of development that is so different from what we're taught in our universities. It deviates from just focusing on the goal of growth, and it includes the current issues of climate change and inequality rather than treating them as externalities. So I would suggest for every student out there who is fascinated by this concept to use these resources to create more engagement within the student society, create more awareness, and also reach out to your faculty, reach out to your professors, communicate with them what this idea is, introduce them to the concept. And I would say you'd be very surprised at the support you receive from your faculty and from your professors because they are very supportive of what students want to learn, and that would only happen once you communicate that with them. So I would say use these resources to engage with more students, to engage with more faculty, and we can all then focus on introducing this amazing concept into our education. And I think this is a first step that also opens the door for many new concepts, many new ways of thinking, and encourages people to, deviate from the norm. So that's what our goal has been at the Post-Crash Economic Society, and we hope that this also inspires others to do the same.
Thank you so much, Anusha. Very glad you were able to come back. The interesting point you made there that I think relates to a question Rosa put in the chat, which is the danger of having this just as an elective that people can kind of opt out of. And I think that Anusha, the work you've done in post-crash economics is a really good example of trying to do both. Recognizing campaigning is incremental, but trying to change core macro lectures, but then also introducing a standalone course. I think it's been a really amazing thing to see. What I'm going to do now, before we move, I'm going to hand back to Kate, and we're going to move into some Q&A. Just a quick invitation, and I'd really encourage you to do this sometime before the session closes, although we will be in touch afterwards for follow-up. But we're really keen that this space here becomes the starting point of further work, further activity, be that students asking and campaigning for this, the inclusion of this material in their education, or academics who really want to use this to meet and learn with one another how they can kind of build a community of practice in ecological economics, in Doughnut Economics. So I've just put in the chat 2 links. And if you're an academic, we'd really encourage you to sign up to the community of practice that's linked there. And if you're a student that wants to learn more about how to campaign for this work, that campaign with this material, please sign up. And for students as well, I've just posted a link to a new campaign handbook, which is full of hints, tips, and a bit of strategy for how we think you can make change. Kate, back to you.
Fantastic. It was brilliant to hear from both Valentina and Anusha about your experience. And I just wanted to say Valentina's point about Doughnut Economics connecting with many, many other ways of thinking, such as Buen Vivir or Ubuntu or Aloha Aina in Hawaii, or gross national happiness in Bhutan. Of course, there's absolutely no way for it to try and replace or compete. The point is to connect. This Doughnut Economics is, I think of it as almost a Western mindset recovery program back towards a wisdom that's been held in indigenous cultures for a long, long time. So can we connect and bring them together and enable students to learn both of these and all of these? So with no further ado, I'm going to pop the link to this. We decided to do a live launch of this in our digital chat. So let's have a digital drum roll. I'm going to do a drum roll on my, here you are. Here we go, everybody. Don't crash the website. There it is. That is the link to the web page. I will be putting it, I'll be posting it on Deal's platform tomorrow. So it's not there on the platform yet. If you want it, grab it now. Thank you, Jacob, for the drum roll. Don't crash the course, don't crash the web page, everybody, but do have a look there. But now we've got some time. We would love to hear your questions, your reflections, your suggestions. Ross already pointed to Rosa's question from Amsterdam. Really great question. Are the materials designed to be used as an elective? Here's what I'll say, Rosa, is that we, of course, the student campaign that Rethinking are launching today, they're calling for Doughnut Economics to be a particular module in the course, and not just an elective, but a core module. So that's a goal, right? What if it was actually a module? Well, what if it was the whole degree? I mean, what if you could just do a degree in 21st century economics? That's the goal. But right now, let's introduce it as a module or an elective. But of course, that's a bigger goal than many academics have the space to do right now. What's the adjacent possible? The immediate thing that many people can do is start integrating these ideas into their existing course, into their existing lectures. So the way we've designed these materials is not, this is a module, here you are, you know, it's not plug and play. That would be crazy. It's a set of ingredients. So as I showed you those slide decks, they're like modular. There's 5 slides on this, or 3 slides on that, or 7 slides on this. And you can pick and mix and integrate them into your own material. And it's so important to be able to do that, because it means you can integrate them into your local context, bringing examples that make sense in your region, in your part of the world, in your country, so that it starts to be locally relevant. You can integrate it with other things that you already are teaching, things that you know that we can't see, that we don't know about, and share them back. So these are ingredients. We wish you great cooking with these tools. Let's see some more questions coming in. I would love advice. I mean, Minal just posted saying it would be wonderful to have more resources, not in English. Totally agree. At the moment, everything that's posted is in English. And for me, that's a really big question of what does it mean to create an accompaniment to this, or something inside it or alongside it that puts these ideas and gathers resources in other languages. Who would be in a good place to do that? These are really big questions it kicks open, but we're thrilled to be able to start doing this now that we've put the tools out.
Maybe I can say something while we wait for more
Please
questions
do.
to come in the chat, because someone asked if anyone had used it to teach architecture and urban design, and I have, because the most powerful tool in economics is not money or algebra, it's a pencil. Yeah, and so the for some reason in Denmark, the core professional community that's been engaging with Doughnut Economics has not been economists, maybe not surprisingly, but it's been architects and designers and urban planners. That's where it's really taken off, which means that is now where I do a lot of my work. So if anyone's interested in that, we're also actually doing a session later on with Civic Square in Birmingham, but yeah, just to say, I think these materials can be used for also way beyond economics courses, because they really are holistic and engage, especially the two principles on regenerative and distributive design go way beyond, yeah. So just to recommend those two principles.
Thank you. And there's a
There are
question.
questions now.
There's a question from Jan Walter Parr saying, are the resources mostly theoretical, or are there also practical exercises? I'll say something, and then Jakob, do you want to jump back in? Because I think you're somebody who's really engaged with this. The aim is both. The aim is to both have slides that literally introduce theoretical concepts, and teach, here is how to teach systems thinking. Here are 10 slides that introduce feedback loops, but then always bringing in, okay, activities. Everybody get up, make a circle. We're going to do this activity. They're often very fun activities, but they're really learning based. Some of them are videos. Watch this video, watch this animation, get into pairs, get into discussion. And again, I was really trying to think of ways of doing this when I was teaching it as a guerrilla course for the students in the city I live in. It was in a lecture theatre with 300 students, and I was thinking, this is the setup I hate teaching in, students stuck in rows. So I was trying to figure out how to make it as interactive as possible, even if they're in lecture theatre. But of course, if you're teaching a smaller group in a room and you've got physical space and can go outside, then we can turn it into activities. Jakob, do you want to mention a couple of activities you've invented, some or ones that you've used from Doughnut Economics that you think are an important part of education?
Yeah, I agree. And I saw that you just added some more activities now in the very final, which is that's what I'll be doing after this, is going into it. I think the value of activities and games is the same as what is attractive about the Doughnut, is that they're playful and engaging, and we know from our own experience as students and from the research that what if you have fun while doing it, and if you engage your whole heart and head and hands, you learn more. And also I think there's it's a revolutionary act in itself to teach economics in a way that engages more than our cognitive capacity. It's part of nurturing the whole part of our human nature. So there are, I don't actually remember all the games that are in there now, but there are cross references to activities which are on the Deal website. Yeah.
Great. So there's a question coming from Valentina, or a suggestion. Thanks, Valentina. It would be interesting to have a section on similar models, as mentioned, such as Ubuntu, gross national happiness. Yes, exactly. There are sections and subsections waiting to be written and expanded. And to me, that's one of the questions of how much do we expand this, and who's already made, should we make new resources, or should we point to ones that other people have already made? How can we best find them? Who else is sharing their teaching materials openly, so that anybody can pick them up and use them? That's a really great point. Somebody's saying, do we have a translation team? And Magdalene, thank you. She's saying you're offering to help translate them. We haven't yet created a translation team. We're literally just launching these now and saying, what's the smartest way to go? I would love to see them get translated. It's a lot of work. And so we need to think carefully about overloading anybody as a volunteer. How could we do that? Should we create a translation team? It's a big question for us in Deal across many of our tools.
Kate, can I say
Yes,
something quickly?
please do. I was going to ask you to jump back in. Please do.
So I just wanted to clarify my comment as well, because I think translation is a fantastic idea, but I totally understand that the limits that poses as well, not just in terms of the resources, but also in terms of its reach. So I think right now, what I was suggesting with my comment was to have more examples from the non-English speaking areas of the world, even though they would be in English. And it's so wonderful to see that there are a number of people here who are already gathered and who are bringing those experiences, especially when, the student from Colombia was talking about there are things already happening on the ground. And I'm like, bring them to this repository, because we want to see more of that. So even if it's in English, in fact, for someone who only knows 2 languages, Hindi and English, but for me, that would be another big barrier if it's not in English. So it's a tight balance. But I also wanted to say something quickly about what some people are asking in terms of it being a standalone module or incorporating it in existing curriculum and existing ways of teaching in specific disciplines. And I think we do need to start thinking in terms of stepping out of how we have done this for a very long time, for so many reasons. Not only the political economic climate and the environmental crisis that we are faced with, but also technological changes. And I think, so I'm obviously pointing to ChatGPT here, but for a number of these reasons, I feel that instead of, that we have this opportunity right now. This is a bit of a rupture that's happening, which gives us the opportunity to rethink how we frame our teaching material. And when we reframe, I see a lot of space for frameworks like Doughnut to be made center, or to be centered. I do that. I have been doing that with a number of different approaches like feminism and environmentalism. So even though I'm talking about globalization, and a lot of students come expecting a certain type of framework, but there is room for us to center those approaches to say, well, there is so much that is missing when you're only looking at these established mainstream lenses. So Doughnut does this really beautifully, that it brings in all of those approaches while also giving the opportunity for us to tell students that here's the mainstream and here's all of that's all around, which is hiding from view because our lens is not wide enough. So my suggestion to those who are asking this question and those who haven't done it, because I know there are many ways, but my way has been that I have had some success with, is to actually completely rethink how I'm approaching the discipline that I'm teaching to my students. And again, the level will determine a lot of those approaches as well. But my invitation is to actually consider really deviating from textbooks. I no longer use textbooks. And I find it very, very freeing. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to ask whether Anusha or Valentina wanted to, or Ross indeed wanted to jump in response to any of the comments and the suggestions and the questions that are coming.
Maybe as a first point, I don't know if Tech, could we be invited up to the stage again? I feel like I'm shouting into the void. And maybe if Anusha and Valentina could join us.
Yes, if the VFairs crew could put all of the panel team. Thank you so much. Could you put also, that's it, Aminal, and thank you. Getting our crew back, that's lovely. Go for it, Ross.
I mean, my only point would just be really agreement with me now. We actually just yesterday in the UK launched a review into 20 university curricula across the UK, and there are signs of hope. There are some really amazing courses out there, but some of it is really shocking. Like one of the supporters of the project said, "Oh, I'd be really interested to know how many of these courses discuss things like Doughnut Economics." And I said to them, it will be an incredibly short report because there's a handful of economics courses that have that sort of framing. As Jakob and Mina have said, we often have to go outside of the economics department to find that. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in the economics department, but I feel that the passion and interest and kind of motivation from students is there. And now we've got the resources to back it up as well.
I'm just going to pick up on a couple of the questions that are coming in, or people suggesting, people saying, I'm teaching in a law faculty, or I'm running a master's in sustainable development, or I'm teaching architecture. It would be great to see a version of these slides of someone who took these ingredients and turned it into a presentation for architecture students or for law students. And it would, again, that's the kind of thing we would love to figure out how to add that. We could have a section that's like different disciplinary takes on this, and crucially here, creating a commons, creating a culture where we share our slide decks, and we all are so much the richer for it, that we share and learn from each other, rather than, you know, the slide deck is something that you hold close to your chest. These are my slides. I put sweat and tears into making them, so I'm not sharing them. How can we create a space that we can share them with a proper attribution and licensing? But we would love, again, to keep building ideas on how we could do this. Valentina or Anusha, any reflections you want to share on what's been asked and said so far?
Yes, thank you. I strongly believe that this space and these resources are more than just resources, and are an opportunity to create, to keep creating, and to keep creating with all together, you know, like calling all the voices. Sometimes I feel the economics and the economies are so self-involved that they don't talk with other disciplines, and this is a huge opportunity. It's more an opportunity to approve and to take into and to be part of.
Thank you. And Anusha, there's a question for you from Ushnish saying, for international students, how do we engage them differently on Doughnut Economics from domestic students? They may not be connected to the local context of the place where they're studying. We would love to hear your reflections on that. You're studying in the University of Manchester. How is it for you, and what could you see might be possible or needed to make it make sense for people who are in a very different context from that which they grew up? Uh-oh, has Anusha frozen? Okay.
While Anusha is coming online, may I say
Yes,
something quickly about that question? Because there are some really wonderful land-based teaching approaches that Indigenous scholars have been telling us about. So I feel that, yes, we probably need to reach students where they are, and that's not always just their geographic location, but also their local knowledge, wherever that may be. It may not be where they are situated right now, but it may be from somewhere else, and that is where maybe their knowledge and their networks come from. So I would consider us, this is something that I'm trying to learn more about as well, but there's some really useful tools in land-based teaching that has overlaps with Doughnut Economics in terms of the application of this model to where you are, and that's not one specific location. It can be multiple locations.
Thanks, Minal. Great points, as ever. There's a question here from Lai, I believe, about the role of Rethinking Economics. Are you organizing a course based on these materials nationally, something that goes beyond uni? And actually, I'm just going to take Lai's question and ask it more broadly. What would it mean to turn, here are some materials. Should we then turn it into a course? I mean, that could be one next step that we could do, which we could offer. Turn it into an online course that we could offer to students or to lecturers or to anybody, that whether it's a pre-recorded MOOC or a live course. That's in my mind. If any suggestions, but any thoughts from you, Ross, on Rethinking's role in running courses, or does that go beyond the scope of what your capacity is?
No, it's a really good question. I mean, it's something we often struggle with at Rethinking Economics, that you tug on the thread of potential initiatives you could run, and suddenly all the time in the week is taken up. But I think that there is some interesting initiatives. I know that in Rethinking Economics Denmark, they're investigating doing some sort of like summer school project, I think, around some of this learning. We've spoken about some of the examples of students campaigning it to be introduced as courses on their curricula, but certainly like public education, the democratization of economics, tearing down the kind of ivory tower that economists sometimes have made a very comfortable home in. That's all really part of Rethinking Economics' mission. So I don't want to, maybe we can think about how that would work, but some sort of online course that kind of even acts as a bit of a taste of what it could look like in your actual curriculum, I think would be a really, really wonderful thing.
Fantastic. So we've got 3 minutes. Jakob's got his hand up. Go for it, Jakob.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Ross said, that one of the things that happened here in Denmark is that because I shared that we were developing these materials and they would be available, I was approached by someone who wanted to do it. And so now there's a funder who said, what will it take to bring this to different universities and do like a summer course together? So that's one of the things that has come out of this is the development of that. And something like that, I think, could happen elsewhere, where it's like it's offered without, you don't get credits, but it's offered freely and openly to everyone. And yeah, it seems like to be generating a lot of interest.
Thank you. So we have 2 minutes. I'm going to bring us up to a wrap. There are amazing questions or rather like suggestions and propositions coming in. Minal saying, I would love to work on an online and possibly open access course on Doughnut Economics. There's a big idea. Somebody said, could we have, Patricia says, it would be fun to have a Doughnut Economics conference in the future to present our work. It will be online, of course. That is a big idea. So many possibilities of coming up about translation, drawing on examples from all around the world. I'm sort of bubbling with the potential of this. And it's also possible. The reason we wanted to just get these materials launched is so that we could now jump into imagining, and next, what can we do? So please stay connected with us. You know that on the link I shared, there's that section that says, please give us your feedback. Please connect with us. We would be thrilled if people here who's joined this webinar, this launch moment, if you just connect with us, we can stay in touch with each other. We can share ideas. There is no obligation on you for joining us, but to share ideas, or you can share them through the feedback form. Please help us think, what can we most usefully do with these materials? Our goal is to enable these ideas to spread at the speed and scale that we know these times demand. And we believe the best way to do that is by putting the ingredients into the hands of educators and students who can then turn this into great recipes in your own locality, in your own country, in your own university, in your own course, and adapt them. We can't wait to hear back and learn back from you what you're doing with it, how to improve the slide decks, what we've got wrong, what we're missing. Please help us improve these and make these incredibly valuable resources. And please tweet them and retweet them and share them and pass them on. We want to make them as widely available as possible. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us, from me and from Ross of Doughnut Economics Action Lab and Rethinking Economics International. Thank you to Jakob and Minal for being our pioneering progressive teachers and lecturers that everybody wishes they had. Thank you to Valentina and to Anusha for being incredible student change makers. I think you've inspired so many people on this webinar today. You've definitely reinvigorated me at the end of a very tough day. Thank you to everybody who's joined. Thank you to all of you who've come in, clicked on the links, who are going to take these resources, and who knows what you're going to do with it. Please share it back. We would love to keep hearing back from you. Anusha, we're so glad you've managed to rejoin us for this closing moment. So thank you, everybody. Take those resources. Let's keep re-educating and unlearning and learning ourselves. Keep inspiring each other back. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.